Hi guys, it's Miss Richardson again. A lot of kids have asked me to talk them through how to write a written explanation because the written explanation for this SAC is very important because basically it's going to save your butt if we can't work out the relevance of your piece. Okay, so it is actually super important that you get this one right. And I would say in the lead up to the SAC, I would be trying to write a written explanation for each of my drafts. I would really make sure that I had practiced it and maybe even go back to your other previous attempts or drafts and try and write written explanations for those, and do hand them in to your teacher because we can kind of give you some advice about, are you explaining yourself well? Are you going into enough depth? Are there areas that you really need to clear up with this? So that's my general advice. Let's get down to specifics. So as you can see in front of you, there is a list of questions. Can you see them? Oh, look, they're right there. So your written explanation will be something that you have to write during the SAC time, so during that 90 minutes. I would spend probably about 20 minutes writing it. And because you get your questions in advance and you can, prep for this, I would definitely have practiced writing my written explanation. I think that's really important. Okay, so let's get into what you're going to see when you get in. You are going to have these questions. Okay, can you see them in front of you? Yes. How many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There should be a little dot point there too, shouldn't there? There we go. Aha! Excellent. Okay. So there should be these questions in front of you in the actual SAC. So you'll be able to see these, okay? And I'm going to give you a copy of these as well, so don't panic. Don't try and write them down or, rush now. Don't bother, okay? So these questions are not, you shouldn't be like, in your written explanation, you shouldn't be like, question 1, how are the key ideas, blah, 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 okay? No. Your written explanation needs to be a series of paragraphs, like a little mini essay, okay? But these questions are the kinds of ideas that you should be addressing. So by the end of your little, written explanation, it should have answered all of these questions. Does that make sense? I would try and maybe write, if not a paragraph on each, I would write a paragraph, maybe going, okay, so I'm going to address question 1 and question 3 in the first paragraph, question 2 and question 5 in the second paragraph, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I would try and either write a paragraph on each or group a couple of the questions together and answer them. Okay, so let's go through these questions. So the first question asks you, how are the key ideas from Like a House on Fire evident in my piece of writing? Okay, so that's talking about the themes and ideas. So what kind of themes and ideas from Like a House on Fire have you put in your story? Now, where it says from Like a House on Fire, I would be more specific and I would go particularly for my prompt. Okay, so I would go, how are the key ideas from Like a House on Fire that are seen in my prompt? Okay, I'm going to write that into this. That are seen in my prompt, okay, evident in my piece of writing. So you've got to take the ideas or the themes that you can see in the prompt and put them in your story or your monologue or your interview or whatever style you're writing, okay? So you talk about how you've put them in. And the important word in that question is how. So you can't just say, I have put these ideas in. That's not enough. You need to tell me how you've put them in. Okay, so it might be I put the idea of isolation in by having my narrator feel really lonely. Okay, is it, the feelings from the character? Is it, maybe you can give me particular quotes that show that idea. Maybe it's particular relationships. How do you show that? Okay, I'll delete that out because it's making the thing a bit crabby. Okay. So the second question asks, how have I given a new insight into the text? What have I done that is original? Okay, so that question is ensuring that you don't just literally just tell either the same story that has already been written. So you're like, oh, well, I kind of just wrote the exact same story as, $5 Family. I changed the name of the main character. That's not enough, okay? You have to give new insight. So, maybe you did write about a new mother and the struggles of motherhood, which, is answering that first one, key ideas, okay? Motherhood, that's a key idea. How have you given a new insight into the text? Perhaps instead of like Michelle, who doesn't seem to have a support network, perhaps your character does have a support network but doesn't really understand her or doesn't agree with her choices. That would be really interesting, because then you're kind of looking at isolation in a new way. Instead of just like literally Michelle is isolated, she doesn't have anybody. You've got somebody who has people but they don't understand her, so it's a different type of isolation. So what I've done is I've given a new insight, okay, that is original, but I'm still pulling on the key ideas. So that's, I'm kind of doing the best of both worlds. Got the best of both worlds. Anyway, I probably shouldn't put my really bad singing, which is heightened by my cold, on the internet. But anyway, it's done now. So the next question asks you, what authorial choices have I made? Ooh, so that question can pair really well with the rest of this question. In fact, I'm going to separate these two questions. What do you think? If you're following along at home, I'm going to separate them. Okay, so what authorial choices have I made and why? So authorial choices are basically choices that you, the author, have made. Basically, you have made a whole ton of choices, haven't you? Because like everything a writer does is an authorial choice. Okay? You choose to use a specific word. That's an authorial choice. You choose to name a character a particular name. So for instance, Frank is named Frank for a reason. Those kind of things are authorial choices. Symbols are authorial choices. Storyline, plot is an authorial choice. Language structure is an authorial choice. Okay, so I'm going to write some of these down so that I'm not stressing you out. So, what did I say? I said symbols. I said characters. Names, plot, word choice, language construction. So short sentences, long sentences, descriptive sentences, all that kind of stuff. All basically any choice that you made, that you deliberately made. Okay? So that can be anything. Okay, so talk to me about the choices that you made. Now, the important bit in that question is this word, why. So why did you choose that symbol? Why did you choose that character? Why did you create that name? Why did you have particular plot points happening at particular times? Why did you choose those words? Why that language construction? Not just because you thought it appealed to the reader. That means nothing, okay? Something like, I chose this symbol of a cricket ball because I think it plays into the idea of ordinariness, and I feel like it's a symbol that lots of people will connect with Australian childhood. And what I'm trying to do there is connect with that idea of families and that time of summers playing cricket, which is a really Australian activity. Fine, okay, that's a good justification. Okay, so tell me, don't just say it'll appeal to the reader. Tell me why it would appeal to the reader. Hi, Liana. Look, she just sent me an email. Anyway, I might actually turn my emails off just in case I get something that I don't want the whole internet to see. I don't know what that would be, because clearly I have no shame. So anyway, okay, so do we get that question? I don't know why I'm asking you, because you can't respond. Anyway, okay, so the next question that I actually separated out is this one. In what ways are my authorial choices similar to those of Kate Kennedy? Ooh. Okay, so that's a really important one. Okay, so my authorial choices, how do my authorial choices tee up with the authorial choices of Kate Kennedy? Now, if you have a look at the PowerPoint, let me pull it up. Oh, look at me, I'm so organized. If you go to the PowerPoint and you click on slide 11, you'll see that Kennedy's text construction, I have actually listed, I would say a bajillion different ways that you could talk about Kennedy's authorial choices, Kennedy's use of language. Okay? And what I would be doing, if I was you, is I would be looking at this list. Okay, here we are. I'd look at this list and I'd go, okay, what ones do I want to use? What do I want to use that I think will particularly work with my story? Okay, so I might go, I'm going to use sensory appeals, because sensory appeals will really work with my story about a new mum. Okay, I'm going to use that emphasis on internal thought. I'm going to use that because I think that really works really well, because I think a lot of mothers often, new mums don't say things that they feel, that they hold a lot in because they're either ashamed of the feelings that they're experiencing, they're worried about being judged. I think that internal thought will work really well. Okay, I'm going to use this one as well, the making the reader experience the world of the protagonist. I think that one will work really well with mine. I'm also going to use the metaphors stuff, because I love me a metaphor. I'm all about the metaphor. And I'm going to use of symbols. I'm going to use some symbols too with that cricket ball one. Okay, so I would pick and choose from this list, or maybe there's something on this list that you think of that I haven't written, and that's totally fine. Use that. Okay, so let's go back to our list. So it says, in what ways are my authorial choices similar to those of Kate Kennedy? You have to make your writing connect to Kate Kennedy's writing, right? So what you want to do is choose from that list some things that you can work into your piece. Okay, and then in your explanatory statement, tell me what the hell they are. Okay, be specific. I used metaphor when I said this. Okay, be specific. Quote yourself. Quote yourself. Tell me what the symbol was, what it was supposed to represent, and how that is similar to Kate Kennedy's writing, because she uses symbolism so strongly in her pieces. Okay? Or she uses sensory language, so I used sensory language when I said this. Okay, does that make sense? When I would be writing my explanatory statement, I think I would probably combine these two questions together. I would write this stuff together. Because I could say, my authorial choice is the creation of the symbol of the cricket ball. I have used my authorial choice of symbolism because Kate Kennedy also uses symbolism in her pieces. Oh, I'm so clever. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so where's my next question? There it is. Okay, what is the purpose of my piece? What is the purpose of my piece? And how do I intend for my audience to respond? Okay, so that I think is a question a lot of kids struggle with, because they end up writing something like, I think the purpose is for my audience to enjoy it. And you're like, well, sure, but is there anything more you could say? Of course there is. Okay, so let's talk about what you would say for purpose. So, say if I was writing this story about the new mum thing, yeah? The new mum, she's just given birth, she's surrounded by a whole bunch of family members who feel like they can tell her what to do, that they know best, and they don't really understand her. Okay, that's going to be the basis of my story, right? I would then go, okay, well, one of the purposes of my piece is to connect with mothers, particularly mothers that feel isolated, those who feel isolated within their own families. Yeah, or I guess another one would be, for me, for that piece might be to take away stereotypes of motherhood. You know, that you have to be a particular type of mother. And I think that actually connects with Kate Kennedy too, because she spends a lot of time trying to dispel stereotypes of men, and that men have to be a certain type of man, right? So you could go, well, I'm flipping that and I'm saying, you know, certain types of mothers. You don't have to be a certain type of mother to be a good mother. Okay? So that's the kind of thing that I would write for purpose. How I intend my audience to respond, think about what kind of mood you're setting. What mood are you trying to set within your audience? Are you trying to make them feel melancholy? Are you trying to make them feel comforted? Are you trying to make them feel inspired? What do you want them to feel? Okay, so I guess how you want them to feel, mood, feel. I guess another word I would use there is what kind of tone are you setting? Okay, let's have a look at the last two questions. We're nearly there, guys. All right, so the last two questions ask, one, what is interesting about my structure, my form, my language? What specific examples specific examples highlight my message or demonstrate my textual links? Okay, so there's two bits to that question, so let's just split that up for a moment. Okay, what is interesting about my structure, my form, my language? Okay, so that is first telling me to answer this question. What is my structure? My structure, you know, is it a letter? You know, is it you know, a journal? Is it a short story? You know, what is it? Oh, I've misspelt journal. Here we go. Oop, there we go. Okay, what is my structure? Okay, then my next thing would ask my structure slash my form. Okay, and I guess the other question is there, what is interesting is what it's kind of implying is like, why did you choose that? You choose that form, that structure or form. You know, why that? You could have written, you know, you didn't have to write a journal. Why did you do that one? What's interesting about it? Okay, does it do anything that other forms couldn't do? Does it do something that you couldn't have achieved through another form? Okay, that's what that bit of the question is asking. Okay, where it says what is interesting. All right. Now the next question the next part of that question asks, what specific examples highlight my message or demonstrate my textual links? Okay, so that one is, how does your piece, I'm writing this in capitals for a reason. I haven't just mistyped, which, look, happens a lot. How does your piece connect to Kennedy's work? So we're giving you like a last ditched effort to make connections. Okay, so does it connect because you've used her characters? Does it connect? There we go. Characters, does it connect because of the form that you've used? Because you used a short story, like she writes short stories. Does it connect through ideas? It better. Does it connect through language use? Any last ditch things that you want to cover. Now this question you might have actually covered in this one and this question. So in the question 1 and that question 3, you might have already covered that. That's fine, don't worry about it. But this question just gives you the opportunity, it prompts you to kind of give us any last minute things that you made connections with. Because if you don't make connections, then we can't give you an S. If there are no connections between your piece and Kate Kennedy's, and we can't give you an S. Which is why we give you the prompt. Because we want you to make connections. Oh, sorry, my bad. I am not on my game today in terms of my typing, am I? Anyway, okay, so does that question make sense? So it's just like a last ditched effort. Tell me any other connections you made. Just in case you haven't got enough, I can look there and find it. Right, and the last question is about your topic. How did I come to choose this topic? Why? Do not write, I chose this one because it was the easier of the two. I will end you if you write that, just so that we're clear, okay? What you could write is, I connected with the ideas because blah blah blah. I could ideas in the prompt. Sorry, I should write in the prompt. Because blah 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 blah. You might say something like that something about the language in the prompt. You might talk about the actual story. Maybe there's a reason that you really like the story that it comes from. But you need to tell me why. Like, you can't just say, I liked the story. Okay? That's not enough. You need to tell me why you liked it. What was particular about it. Maybe you particularly wanted to address some of the themes that come out of the prompt. Addresses themes that you wanted to discuss. and you'll need to, again, be more specific. You know, you need to go into detail about why you wanted to address those themes. You might say things like, I really wanted to talk about a particular character. So maybe the prompt comes from a character that you really like or that you really wanted to explore. Okay, so that's just kind of like an idea. So hopefully this video has helped you a little bit in terms of getting ready for the SAC, and hopefully that has made